G'day guys and welcome back to the Boundary Riders Podcast, the off-season edition, first one back. We've got our co-host here, Jack. Before we get into that though, a lot of you guys have been requesting that we get some better gear and we finally have got a light. So let there be light on this podcast right now. Oh,
Beautiful,
shining down on us, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we've got a light here. We're going to try and upgrade some stuff in the near future. We've got some stuff coming. So that was the first thing we got. It was a pretty cheapy, but it works well and it looks a lot better. I can see why. It does look a lot better though, doesn't
it does.
Anyway, so you're here finally for a podcast. That's why it's a couple of days later than usual. This is probably the time now we're going to start recording it on Wednesdays. So there still has been a lot of footy news coming through the week. Probably the biggest one is the drug controversy with Joel Smith from the Melbourne Demons and Elijah Hollands, the new recruit for Carlton.
Yeah.
So I am unsure if they've handed down the ban of Joel Smith yet. I think it's 3 weeks, it could be. But Elijah Hollands has been given a 2-match ban at this stage from Carlton, so he won't be playing in the first 2 matches of 2024. Bit surprising by this. What are your early thoughts about it?
Well, I don't know. It just seems a little suspect that Carlton actually knew about this before they recruited him. So I don't know if maybe they didn't think it was a big enough deal to not go for him. So
I mean, it is only a 2-match ban. It's not a lot, and he could have a long career with Carlton. I think it is. Look, if, let's say, this happened in the off-season, I wouldn't have a huge deal with it, to be honest. I mean, look, do whatever you want in your off-season. As long as you're not hurting anyone, I don't have an issue with it personally. I do think that the clubs should be a little bit more harder on it. And I think I know in the NRL there's a 3-strike system, so you get three strikes of taking drugs and then it becomes public.
Yeah.
I don't know how it is in the AFL, to be honest, but the issue I have with it is both of these guys were doing it when they were playing in the season, especially Joel Smith. He got, I think he took the drug test and it came out that it was in the home and away season that he was taking cocaine, I believe.
Yeah.
So for him to have taken that and then play is pretty unforgivable in my opinion, because I mean it's not like you should be doing that when you're playing. I don't think it's a performance enhancing drug by any means, but I still don't think you should be taking it. I don't know how many offences this would have been, how many positive tests they would have had to take before this became public.
Probably once, and then some
journalists came out and said, "Oh my God, he's taking drugs." That's why the club had to come out and say something instead of letting this, clubs trying to deal with it internally and trying to say, "Look, man, you got to try and sort this out, or else unfortunately we're going to have to let you go."
Yeah.
Some journalists, probably Tom Morris, our fan favourite Tom Morris. So this was probably the big story to come out of the week. Overall, I don't know how this will play out. I think there is a bigger problem in the AFL though. Not so much AFL compared to the NRL. I think there's a lot more of a drug culture in the NRL, but the AFL, there are a lot of players, coming out basically every off-season who have been charged with drugs or driving even. I mean, we saw Jack Ginnivan last year with drugs. We've heard of Tyson Stengel in the past with drugs and drink driving. So
yeah. Willie Rioli
as well, Sam Palpepper. Yeah, a lot of these things happen. Look, I think it is a little bit different as well. You got to remember these guys are young people, so what else? I mean, if they had the type of money that they had, I'm sure there'd be a lot of people out there doing this sort of stuff. So I get where the part comes from, like the fans, the one fan base is sitting there saying, crucify them because they're earning so much money and doing their dream job. But then on the other hand, if you were doing a dream job and you had this amount of much money, if you went in the public spotlight, a lot of people would be doing the same thing.
Yeah, and you got to think, like, everyone, there's always those people that say they're the role models, that you have to put it in, be the example for the young kids and stuff. It's like,
look, I get that argument, and I get what you're saying, but at the end of the day, if they're role models for kids, if you're the parents, don't show them that.
Yeah. And
also, if they're such I get they're role models on the field, but once they're off the field, once they're out of the limelight, they're human beings at the end of the day. So I kind of get that. But yeah, I get the role model aspect, but I mean, come on, they're adults as well. They want to do shit. Some of them are teenagers. Like Elijah Hollands, he'd only be 2021. So he's younger than us. Look how fucking our lives went. We could have been AFL footballers taking cocaine, but no. We have a podcast on ya. But anyway, more footy news was another one about the split round. Now, this has been met with a lot of backlash for round one split round.
I think it's one of the most stupidest ideas I've ever heard.
So the AFL are planning that the round 1 fixture for next year will have a split round 1 week. We'll have a games in Queensland and New South Wales, and that's it. And then so there's 8 teams will be playing in the first week, and then in the second week of round 1, 10 other teams will play a regular sort of round.
Yeah.
There's been rumours at this stage that Brisbane will play Carlton, Gold Coast will play Richmond, GWS will play Collingwood, and Sydney will play Melbourne. Obviously, the Sydney teams get the home game, and Brisbane's get the home game. Now, the main reason for this is to try and capitalise on the fact that the NRL are playing a lot of games in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
So they're trying to capitalise on the rugby states going to Las Vegas so they can try and get some extra crowds for round 1. I just don't really like the idea, to be honest. I think the AFL season, they should have games in Queensland and Sydney for round 1, but I don't think I don't like the idea of split rounds to begin with. No, I don't like splitting up one round into 2 weeks because I think it just annoys this. I think it also messes up the teams as well. We've seen teams coming off buys in the past just not playing that well. So I think it just messes up with team morale and team movement as well, especially at the start of the season. Everyone's all hyped up for a game. Your first week in, for these 8 teams, playing and, having a really big game and then having the week off again after having a whole summer off.
Exactly. Especially, early in the season when players near the end of games get cramps and all that. They
need that match fitness.
You need the match fitness. And I think playing one game in, 3 weeks is really stupid.
Yeah. That's why I don't like the finals bye.
Yeah,
it's because then teams are having one game in 3 weeks if they win their qualifying final.
Exactly.
So yeah, I'm not a big fan of this. I don't mind the idea of having. I mean, even if they just had the round 1 like this, I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah,
having these 2 games split up into 2 games in Queensland, 2 games in New South Wales. I don't mind that idea, but I don't like the split.
No, I think that's stupid. The AFL can capitalise on this, just doing it in one week, one round.
Exactly.
You can capitalise on it. I just don't know what they do.
I think easy way to do this would be the Thursday night. I still think should be the Carlton Richmond. Thursday night, sorry, should be the Carlton Richmond opener. But then have the Friday night, make it Brisbane and someone not Brisbane Collingwood, because I think the game should be.
That's always Easter Thursday. That's Easter Thursday now.
Well, yeah, but also they should be playing it. I still think they should be playing at the MCG, the grand final rematch. But anyway, make it a big game like Collingwood Giants.
Yeah.
Make it at New South Wales. Play it at. I don't really think they should be playing at ANZ, but they could play it there if they wanted to have a big crowd. But, have things like that. Have a big game on Friday night between the Giants and Collingwood. That was a massive game of the prelim.
Yeah, exactly.
Have Sydney and Melbourne play on Saturday night. They're 2 big teams going into it. A grudge match for Brodie Grundy. These are the things they can think about, but they want to split the round, and then all these teams who have to play have to have a bye again. Yeah. I bet they lose in round 2.
Yeah.
Because they've just lost all match fitness. At least one team. Yeah, I don't like this at all.
And
the split round aspect of it.
And you got to think also the other 10 teams that miss that week. They're going to have a lot of more match fitness coming into round 2 because they're not missing a week. They're not missing the week for round 1 because they're going straight into the next week. So it helps them, I believe, in round 2 and probably leading into the season.
No, I'm going to leave this in. That's exactly what I just said. That's exactly what I just said.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did. I just said that. It's more match fitness. That's why I said round 2, every team's going to lose. I'm leaving that in.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Hey, I just wanted to hear my own voice, alright?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly why we did this podcast. Yeah. By the way, speaking of listening to our own voices, we finally actually have this podcast on Spotify. So,
this is my fault. I figured it out.
You didn't figure it out. I did it.
It was my fault. You figured it out earlier.
Yeah, so it is my fault that I didn't put it on Spotify. I thought there was. I think it's for other platforms like Apple Podcasts, and all that sort of stuff. You need to have it on a Podbean, a distributor. But Spotify actually have a place where you can upload your podcast just to Spotify, and I think that's what we'll do for the meantime. I don't think we need to put it on Apple Podcasts or that for now. This podcast, the Boundary Riders Podcast, is on Spotify right now if you guys want to listen to it. It isn't. We don't really have many things that are on the screen. We will have something today that I want to show you, which you guys can come over and watch, but also you want to see the great ring light, so the great lighting fixture. Yeah. So this one's specifically on YouTube, so a great time to bring it on Spotify for the first time. But anyway, if you want to watch it on Spotify, just search up the Boundary Riders Podcast. Just Boundary Riders Podcast, all in lowercase. We searched it with uppercase letters and it didn't work. Search it all lowercase and you'll find the podcast on Spotify. The last episode's out there on there now, but this will be the first one we've actually announced it. So yeah, episode, I think it's 34 now. So if you guys want to check it out, make sure to do so. I wanted to talk about as well the McClelland Trophy. Now, for people who don't know, which would probably be a lot of people, the McClelland Trophy is the trophy that is awarded to the team with the most amount of points over their AFLW team and their AFL team. So at the moment, I think Melbourne are in front.
Yeah.
And I think as well the women's team get 8 points per win.
Yes.
In the McClelland Trophy for some reason.
Yeah, they get extra points because they play less games than the men's teams do. So they get 8 points for a win and... Well, yeah, like the men's they get 4 like normal. So,
yeah, I think it's Melbourne, Brisbane, and Adelaide are the only ones who can win it now.
The Crows are coming for it, but
which is basically because they're the only 3 AFL women's teams that are any good. But anyway, let's not bring that up. My issue with it is obviously the revenue is $1 million. So $1 million is awarded to the team who wins the McClelland Trophy. Now, this is why I took off my work uniform. No, I'm kidding. But this will be split 50-50. Between the men and the women's players. $1 million. I'm going to say it right now. That is bullshit. The men's play 26 games a year. They play for a whole year. These women play 12 games. About that. Now, I know you have a job and you have a life, but that is crap. I'm sorry. That is crap that it's split 50-50. I think it's split between the players. So it'll be split between, I'm assuming, the full squad. So it won't be obviously $1 million going to a big player, but at the end of the day, I think that's pretty crap for the men's team. And I think the men have actually had issues with this with their the player bargaining agreement when they tried to get more money from the AFL players trying to get more money for their contracts and stuff. I think they were pretty pissed off at the fact that the women were getting a lot more based on the revenue that they were bringing in. That's what the men's players were pretty angry about. Hypothetically, I'm not too sure. Sue me. But yeah, I think the men's players behind the scenes would be pretty pissed off that they're going to have to halve this revenue split. At the end of the day, I know the women do earn the more points here in the McClelland Trophy, but I just think it's a little bit unfair that the men are going to have to give up half for this. I think it may be a little bit harsh on their side. I think the men deserve a little bit more. Maybe I don't want to sound biased because I don't want to say that. Maybe I should cut this out. You haven't said one thing, you're scared.
I don't know. I think it should just go back into development for the club, I think. Or something in...
yeah, I agree with that.
To be honest, I don't think there should be this McClelland Trophy thing anyway. Like, there's so much money that you can use this actual money for. Development Well, for one thing, the Tasmanian team.
Yeah,
you can use it for the Tasmanian team. You can use it for youth clubs around Australia. There's so many things you could use this money for.
And I think they should be using it a lot more as well if they want to try and build the women's game for the women.
Yeah.
Because at the moment, you can see in the scores, if you look at the scores for the women's game, so many games are like just blowouts. Because there's like a certain amount of teams that have got good players, like the Crows, like Brisbane, like Melbourne, who were inaugural AFLW teams, that because the teams like Port Adelaide and like newer teams that have come to the AFLW, like West Coast as well, but they're just crap in general. But no, I just think...
The amount of money that this thing could give them, well, you might as well just give them the money and just
give it to West Coast.
And they'll just give it all to... they'll just give it to all their 34-year-old players.
Yeah, I don't really like the fact that they're... Yeah, I think that they should be putting a lot more development into the women's game. I think they... we don't really talk about the AFLW too much because, to be honest, we don't watch it too much, which is fair enough. If you want to watch it, watch it. If you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. That is fine. I don't care. But I think that they need to develop the women's game a lot more because I think they expanded it way too quickly. And now they've got the issue of 18 clubs not being able to build a relevant competition. And also, it's not a relevant competition because it's not fair because you're not playing against every single team at least once. You're playing against... I think that's why it was a little bit unfair in the AFL season this year because teams were playing West Coast twice and they were absolutely demolishing them, which almost get... Look, I know the Crows should have made it on the fact that the Ben Keys goal. We get it. But also, they had 2 games against West Coast. How was that fair?
Yeah.
And they smashed them. Well, they smashed them once. They could have lost against them a second time. But also with Carlton, they smashed them twice.
Yeah, and you got to think also, well, who finished the top 2 of the Coleman? Taylor Walker and Charlie Curnow. They played both for West Coast twice.
And they both got a huge amount of goals
exactly.
in those twice as well.
You can look at everything about that stat. Yeah, so we've talked about this so many times so far this season about that. So
yeah, I think Nick Larkey was the best forward of the year, and he did deserve. Not to say that Curnow and Walker had a bad year. I think they had good years as well. You know, I was a little bit surprised to hear before that Walker wasn't a part of the 22 of an All-Australian team. And I think he probably deserved it this year, even though it's tough for me to say. But very tough for you to say. You won't even say it. But yeah, I just think the equality in this game, you know, the women's game, even just the men's game with a lot of things, I think is very up and down. I hope they do try and make the fixture a lot more equal this year because, next year, because I think this fixture in 2023 was very lopsided towards teams who had the teams like West Coast, like North Melbourne twice. I mean, people are saying like Fremantle are going to be in the bottom 4 this year, and they've got West Coast twice. So
yeah,
we're interested to see how the clubs like that go. But yeah, that's basically all I wanted to say about that. I just think it's a little bit tough on the men's players to be only getting, you know, I get it's like an equal split 50-50, but you know, I think the men play a lot longer as well, and they have a lot more of a harder job than the women. Sorry. Anyway, let's move on. So, moving on from the footy, I wanted to talk about the cricket. Now, for some people who don't know, I didn't even know this. Apparently, the cricket is going to be in the 2028 Olympics. Sorry, the Olympics. So, I didn't know this. Did you?
Yes, I
did. You did know this.
I knew this, yes.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. What do you think about it? Do you think it should be in the Olympics or not?
No.
No?
No, I think it's stupid that it's in the Olympics because, well, let's be honest. The only teams that play cricket that are any good are really the Commonwealth teams, the Commonwealth nations. So to put it in the Olympics is...
Is that true? Is India a Commonwealth?
Yeah.
Is India a Commonwealth?
Well, they played in the Commonwealth... I'm pretty sure they played in the Commonwealth Games, didn't they?
I don't know.
No, but there's a lot... Yeah, like, you got to think, like, most of these teams... Isn't like... Well, I think for the men's teams... The top 6 are going to qualify for the World Cup, for the Olympics. Australia fits at the moment in the... Is
this
T20.
a T20 or
yeah,
50?
T20.
Yeah, so it's
T20. So it's only T20, and the top 6 teams in the men's get into it.
Yeah.
Australia at the moment 5th in the world of rankings, the T20s. So they might not even qualify for it.
Wait a minute. So it's only 6 teams. I didn't look into this because I just wanted to talk about it for a bit. But there's only 6 teams. How is that an Olympic? Are you sure there's not going to be qualifiers like in the start with like 12?
I don't think there might be that, but they're saying that pretty much I think the 6 automatically qualify, and there might be like 2 extra teams.
Well, I guess that's like the World Cup, so I guess that's fair.
It seems very. I think it's very rushed. I think it's perfect if they do it for the 2032 Olympics in Queensland.
I think they should have done the Commonwealth Games first to see how it goes.
Oh, they did it for the women's in the last Commonwealth Games.
Yeah.
I
mean, I think as well.
But like with the Commonwealth Games, Australia's they dominate everything. Like in the women's cricket, Australia dominate everything pretty much.
Yeah, I think it'd be a lot more of an equal competition if they tried the men's in the 2026 Commonwealth Games. I'm assuming they were going to be here, but I think they've been moved now.
Yeah. So the only reason that they're going to try and do it in the 2028 is because it's in America, LA. I don't get why. They think that they want to cash in on the Indian population.
Well,
because of the
I see 2 sides of this. I do think it's an okay idea because the countries like India are don't have very chances of getting a gold medal. So maybe they have very well chance of having a gold medal. You got countries like South Africa, obviously England, New Zealand, Australia. These. Not so much England and Australia, but the other countries that I mentioned, they have a chance to get a big medal here from a country. Because, New Zealand aren't competing very much for any other sport. Maybe, I think they get a medal in shooting and maybe sometimes swimming, maybe. I'm not too sure if they get much for swimming. But, South Africa, I think they have a couple of runners that are good. I think I've seen in the past. India, I can't remember the last time they won a medal.
They're normally good at shooting and.
Yeah.
But New Zealand.
No race, by the way.
Yeah, but
I don't want to get fucking sued.
New Zealand are more I think rugby sevens, if anything. Some of the other stuff.
But again, they're not like big competitors in the Olympics. So I think it does bring a good sport into it. But on the other hand, like we said, it's not going to be a sport like a team sport where a lot of countries are competing for.
You've got to think also in the Olympics, the West Indies are like Trinidad, Tobago.
Yeah, they're split
into like 4 different countries. The West Indies.
Maybe they have like a batting team go out as one country.
Yeah,
the bowlers go
the
out
whole
as another
thing.
country.
I don't get it. It's like, well, probably the West Indies aren't playing that well at the moment in the men's team, to be honest. But like, if they're going to do the women's, it just doesn't work, in my opinion. If you're going to do it like that.
Yeah, I think as well. Like when there's different sports for like teams and stuff, like soccer, for example, there's a lot of teams that can compete for a medal in the soccer. Like many countries, basketball as well. Because the US don't play their best players. Hockey, there's all kinds of sports that many countries do compete in and are good at it. But for cricket, there's only half a dozen.
Yeah.
So...
It doesn't, yeah.
I mean, the reason why I brought it up is I saw Brad Hodge, I think it was, on 7 Cricket. He brought up his men's team for Game 1 of the 2028 Olympics, and he just picked a bunch of young kids. So that's where I saw it from, basically. But 5 years away is when this is going to be happening. In Los Angeles, I don't know how that's Olympics going to work out. I think it's going to be very interesting.
Because the next T20 World Cup is in the US and West Indies. So they think that if they can capitalise on that, then they go to the Olympics and capitalise on that.
Yeah, but the US don't even play... They're not even big fans of baseball anymore. And the closest to that game is cricket. Sorry, the closest to baseball is cricket, yeah.
Yeah, because...
So, they're more NFL fans, they're more basketball fans. They're not even... Have you seen highlights of baseball lately? There's no one in the crowds. There's no one there. And I mean, there's more at cricket. And look, I'm going to be... Test cricket. I'm going to be honest. Most of the time, Test cricket pretty boring. I'm going to be honest. I know you like it, and I do like it to an extent, but it does get pretty boring pretty quickly.
But
if nothing's happening,
because the US just had the T20 tournament during the Australian winter, where most of the teams were. I think there was like 4 international players that you could play for each team, and.
So they tried to pack it.
And 90% of the players that were American were Indian expats. You could see it.
Yeah.
You could see
That's just like the Saudi Arabian soccer league. They just bring in every single guy. They have a lot of cash, so they can just bring in like Neymar and Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. Neymar did his bloody ACL. That's pretty funny.
Oh, I'm laughing my head off. Speaking of soccer, I just wanted to talk about that. The Champions League was on this morning. A couple of results when Arsenal won and I think Manchester United won as well.
Yeah, they won.
And I saw Manchester United won. You obviously have seen the memes and the stories about Onana.
Yeah.
And Maguire.
Yeah.
Well, funnily enough, in the Manchester United game, a lot of Manchester United supporters would be, pretty surprised that Harry Maguire was the goal scorer and Onana saved a 95th minute penalty to win the game. So, I thought that was interesting to bring up because those guys have been run through the coals, especially Maguire. He's been run through the coals basically since he left Leicester, 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's the highest paid defender ever at that stage until Virgil van Dijk the next season went to Liverpool. So.
Yeah, well, we haven't really talked much about soccer here. He's a Liverpool supporter and I'm a Chelsea supporter, marginally. I used to be a lot more, but that's kind of after I followed the NFL a lot more. We can talk a little bit about NFL in a minute as well. But Chelsea last week against Arsenal had a 2-0 lead. Looked like they were going to win, and then all of a sudden the goalkeeper gave up an easy goal to Arsenal, and then they got a draw out of it, which was pretty funny. But also Tottenham.
Ah, yes, Tottenham.
You gotta eat your words. Ange Postecoglou is definitely coaching them very well.
Yeah, well, they haven't won it yet, so we're not.
He's got no striker, and he's on top of the table. Yeah. You got to give him credit for that.
Oh, you have to, and
he's been an amazing coach for Tottenham in this first half, not even a half a season. But look, he's got a long way to go. But the fact that they lost one of the best strikers in the world, Harry Kane, and they're on top of the Premier League table at the moment is insane. I mean, Hai Sung-min, the new captain of Spurs has been really good.
Yeah, and James Maddison.
James Maddison's been brilliant since leaving Leicester.
Yeah.
Even Richarlison's had some moments. They're not playing Lloris. I think he's injured. Actually, I don't think he's injured.
He's too old anyway.
They're playing. I think his name's Fricario or something. But he was brilliant in the game that they recently played. I've just been watching a lot of stuff about Ange Postecoglou recently, and it's been very interesting looking about his rise and, how he's came from nothing and gone to, he's in Australian soccer for a very long time. We fired him the second time in the World Cup, which I think was stupid.
Well, I just think it's funny that he's doing so well over there in the UK, and how he's doing so well at Celtic and all that, and Australia just decided to ship him off because a couple of people high up in Football Australia didn't like him, so they got rid of him.
Yeah, well, that cost them a good chance of, doing some big things in the next couple of years, I think. I mean, and the thing is as well, Ange hasn't brought in like a bunch of different weird players. He hasn't brought in a bunch of stars. He's brought in a bunch of all these players to play their specific role.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a James Maddison type. They could have... I mean, they really haven't had that good a midfield player, really, since Ericsson, because he left to United. He left somewhere else before United, though. I can't remember where he went to. It was like Real Madrid or something?
No, it was Inter Milan.
Inter Milan. Oh, I could have been.
Pretty sure.
They're actually doing pretty well at the moment in the Champions League. They won their game as well. I haven't followed soccer very much. When COVID hit, I kind of fell off of it because it wasn't very interesting to watch. I've kind of got back into it. A lot of players have moved now, like Alexis Sanchez is at Inter Milan, Aubameyang is at Marseille over in France. Just a lot of... I know we're just randomly talking right now, but this is basically what the off season's going to be, us talking about different sports. But I think it's quite interesting. But yeah, I've also been following a lot of FIFA stuff, and my God, that game is just such a fucking pain-to-win game.
It's not FIFA anymore.
Oh, EAFC, whatever. What a joke.
Yeah.
I've been watching a lot of it too, and it's all of this EAFC stuff is just pack opening shit. I'm I don't want to watch it. But anyway, enough about the soccer. We can move to the NFL for a minute here. We saw the Falcons win again. I'm a Falcons supporter, by the way.
Yeah.
Great win from the Falcons. They're 4-3 at the moment, and on top of the NFC East, I believe they're part of.
You should really know what conference you play for.
Technically, at the moment, they're in the playoffs. If they were to make it,
they're fifth seed. I reckon.
They're fourth seed at the moment. They're fourth seed.
Fourth seed. So
they're the worst of the top four. But that's okay.
Yeah, they're the worst.
They're the worst of the worst. But no, they're doing pretty well. Eagles, I think, are up there with obviously the favourites. 49ers have been doing really well as well.
Did you watch that game against the bloody not Dolphins? Who did they just play? They played the...
I'll quick look.
Bloody hell, I should really know this. I watched the game.
You watched the game against the Vikings?
Yeah, that's the Vikings. Oh my God, they got to... Cousins and the new guy, Addison, I reckon his name was. Wide receiver, rookie. He played really well in that game. I think as well, a good team, the Dolphins. The Dolphins and the Eagles are really fighting it out, I think, this year. Dolphins have got a really good point of difference as well with their Tua. Tua, he's... the left-handed quarterback. You don't see that every day. But the thing that's going to cost them, I think, might be their defense. I think they're putting up too much... they
had a game a couple of weeks. They had I think it was a game against the Broncos a couple of weeks ago. They scored 72, and they still conceded 3 touchdowns.
Yeah,
so.
It was 70-20. Then the next week they lost to the Bills the week after. So I think that's going to be their problem, Miami. But
we've seen this. We've said this about the Chiefs before, and they've gone on to win the Super Bowl a couple of years in a row, and they're currently on top as well.
Yeah, we're not talking about the Chiefs on here. We're not Swifties either.
I don't want to hear that shit.
The
Kelsey. All I see is that NFL shit. I'm like, can we watch the game, please? I don't care about Taylor Swift celebrating a Chiefs touchdown.
Now they're bringing up stats since she started watching going to his games, how much better he's been. Good for fantasy. Not the entertainment of the actual...
Oh, who cares? Yeah. Well, at the moment, the Broncos even won against the Packers, which is surprising because what's his name? Rogers left it.
Well, Rogers was done in the first 2 play. He only played 3 snaps of the season, and then he snapped his Achilles.
Yeah, so he was out for the rest of it. I think as well, interesting about the Bucs. Obviously, Falcons did beat them, which good on them. But the Buccaneers obviously lost Brady in the offseason. He retired, and then they picked up Mayfield from the Cleveland Browns. They picked him up from the Browns. He was like probably one of the biggest quarterbacks in the comp. And he had a pretty poor game against the Falcons. I think the Falcons almost tried to give it to him. He threw, I think, 2 turnovers. And yeah, it was really interesting to watch because, the Falcons, they had a really good start. They won their first 2 games, then lost. I think they lost their next 2, won, and then lost again. They've had a really shaky start. But at the moment, because the Saints haven't done really well in that conference, and also the Bucs as well, the Falcons sit on top with a team that's not the best looking team on paper.
Well, then you got the Carolina Panthers, who you guys
haven't won a game yet.
They're the only team that hasn't won a game yet. But looking at the Saints, that's the second game only all season that they've scored 20 points or more. That's
Which is interesting because they've got a quarterback. They've got a decent quarterback in Derek Carr.
Yeah.
Obviously, a Raiders a lot of Raiders people would know who Derek Carr is. And they've got a pretty good lineup as well. They've got Tyreek Hill as well, and they've got Kamara. What do you mean? Not Tyreek Hill. What's his name? Taysom Hill. I know it's Hill.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah,
He plays quarterback, but he can also play as like a rusher as well. So, I mean, he's very good. Alvin Kamara in their team. They've got a pretty good lineup. They've also got Thomas as well as one of the better wide receivers in the comp. And, yeah, they're not doing too well at the moment. I mean, the Raiders let go of Derek Carr in the offseason and picked up Garoppolo, who was...
who's been injured since... he's only played... Yeah, he's been injured for the last couple of games.
Yeah, well, the Raiders aren't doing that well either. So, I mean, that's another one to look at. But anyway, that's kind of all the NFL stuff we've talked about.
I just want to talk about one more thing about the NFL. You look at the New York Giants. You see the quarterback who plays for them?
Allen. No, that's the problem.
Daniel Jones.
Oh, yeah.
He was dropped a couple weeks ago. He's on $40 million a year.
He got dropped.
Yeah.
Oh,
they're playing his backup in the team. And Daniel Jones is playing as the bloody playing as the second fiddle at $40 million a season.
Which I sit on the bench. Well, he didn't do that well. I mean, the quarterback... hang on. Oh, well, the quarterback for them did okay. I mean, recent game he played, he had 18 connections from 29 passes, 279 yards. That's pretty good. I mean, it's nearly 10 yards a carry and 10 yards a play. That's pretty good. And 2 TDs. Considering they only scored 14 points in that whole game and beat the Commanders, which are Washington, by the way, for anyone wondering. I mean, that's... But also, as well, they've talked about Kyler Murray. People may remember him. He was a number 1 draft pick a couple of years ago for the Cardinals. Had a really good start to his career, but he's been injured. He had an ACL injury, I believe, at the start of the season. Hasn't been able to play for the Cardinals. And now they're talking about potentially not tanking, because I don't like that word, but they're not tanking the Cardinals, but they're kind of reserved to the fact that they're going to be last this season and then get the number 1 draft pick and pick up another quarterback. So Kyler Murray has been talked about as a potential mover next season. Now, Murray's not really much... He's not a big guy. He's quite small, actually, for a quarterback, but he's quite a good runner. Kind of, not so much Lamar Jackson, but similar how the fact that he likes to run. Who's the Bears quarterback? What's his name? Oh, Christ. Justin Fields, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, Justin Fields. I believe that's his name. Sorry, we're not novices of the NFL. We know a lot than most Australians would know, but not a lot. So any Americans watching probably just screamed at, oh, shut up! But yeah, I mean, Kyler Murray's was one of the best recruits a couple of years ago. Had a really good start of his career. Obviously injured now. He lost a lot of his support players, like his wide receivers and stuff, in the off season. So I don't know if he'll want to be at the Arizona Cardinals next season because they're 1-6 right now. I think they're last on the table. They're second last, I think. Or is that? Oh, it's the AFC. Sorry, they are second last with the Panthers obviously bottom. Haven't won a game yet, which is a little bit surprising because I think Carolina did okay last year.
But they've got one of the toughest.
They have got one of the tougher groups, but conferences. Sorry, but what?
Oh yeah, and schedules. They got one of the toughest schedules as well.
Oh okay. Well, still, I mean, you can't be 0-6.
Yeah,
it's not.
Well, yeah, but I'm just giving them an out.
Giving them an out. Oh, how nice of you.
Yeah.
All right. But anyway, guys, just before we ended today's podcast, I wanted to talk about my new favourite sport. Now, you're a pretty big fan of neither of these. I was going to try and set it up, but you're not. So obviously you know things like MMA and basketball. You know basketball, pretty good sport, whatever. Yeah. Now I wanted to. This is for audio listeners, I'll try and describe it for you. But I recently was scrolling through Facebook and through all the racist stuff and all the conspiracy theories. I was looking at this interesting. Alright, so this is a new sport that I was scrolling through Facebook and found. It's called MMA basketball. Now, if you watch this, this is my new favorite sport. So. It just gets poleaxed at playing basketball. This is how me and you used to play basketball when we were angry at each other, just tackling each other to the ground. So basically, this guy shoots, and as he shoots, someone grabs a rebound, basically. Basically, what you would imagine, this is how 4-year-olds would play basketball if they were angry at their sibling or whatever, just tackling each other to the ground. I think this is my new favourite sport. I think this is what basketball has been missing, a lot more tackling. Now, they're playing in an MMA ring, but these guys are just strangling each other to the ground. Brutal. I don't know how they get the ball out if they're just sitting on top of it. Oh, that was a good play, though. Oh, it goes up for the play. I wouldn't be hugging and whatever and handshaking the other team after I was just grabbing and poleaxing.
Yeah, it just seems... Yeah.
But after all that, I think that's my new favourite sport. I don't know what you think about it. I don't know if you have any thoughts about...
it just seems like it's like people playing in kindergarten,
wailing on each other.
Yeah, I don't know. If it's two brothers going at each other.
I think that's how we used to play basketball when we got angry at each other as kids.
Yeah, I don't even know what that was.
Every single week, I'm going to try and bring a new sport to the podcast. See if you can enjoy it. Maybe at the end of the off season, when we move back into the footy, we'll rank them. It's like best and worst or whatever. But that's my new favourite sport, MMA basketball. I don't think I've seen anything worse.
No, I don't think
I've heard of you heard of a sport called it's like car wrestling. These guys sit in their cars and they try to strangle each other out until someone gives out.
No,
I'll bring that one to you in a couple of weeks. It's fucking hilarious. God. I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called car jiu-jitsu. Car jitsu, that's what it's called. Car jitsu.
Fucking hell.
It's like two guys basically just fighting in a car. So they've called it a sport. Well, it's like a whole thing. They televise it. They have people sitting there reffing. Oh, it's fucking hilarious. But I'll have to bring that to you in a couple of weeks or whatever.
Oh, I can't wait for that one.
Yeah. Alright guys, that's basically the whole podcast for you. That's basically what the podcast is going to be for the next couple of months, probably until we get some more footy news. And we'll probably cover the draft a little bit more when it comes out. But yeah, if you have any suggestions for different sports and stuff to talk about, make sure to let us know down below. Make sure now that we are on Spotify to give us 5 stars if you are enjoying it. Or just give us 5 stars anyway because we really need it to this point. If you are going to listen to it on Spotify as well, make sure to let us, know if the quality is any good in that as well. But yeah, that's all from us. So we will catch you in the next one.
See you later, guys.